Okay, so my name is Paola Garcia. My company is Born Carbon. I am here to represent a stewardship impact collective that I recently co-founded with the Climate Reality Project. We are here at Earth Week Festival at Union Square. And I heard you speaking so much about your great work. I would like to learn more about it. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Paul Garin, and I'm the program director for Ecolibrium at the Lower East Side Center here in New York City's Lower East Side.
Oh, great to meet you, Paul.
Thank you.
Can you share a little bit more? Like, I am taking a look at this these impressive posters and your programming. You cover a lot of bases here, from floods to carbon emissions to doing surveys to community about how much they know, assessing the landscape of how we can make our spaces more efficient. Can you speak a little bit more about your work and what message do you hope to share, and what actions would you like to inspire at this festival?
Well, we've come to a point where it's obvious that climate change is happening.
Agreed.
And that actions are urgent. And many people are expressing sentiments about it, and they're approaching it in different ways, identifying problems. And it's important to identify the challenges and the problems. But what we do at Ecolibrium is we take a holistic system of systems approach of looking at the problems and also the solutions in the context of community scale.
Yes.
And we do this through a series of internships with colleges, universities, and high schools, and now into the vocational space as well, to develop this multidisciplinary collaboration and this holistic system of systems view with a hands-on approach. And we're looking at buildings in our neighborhood, so we're looking at the neighborhood at scale, the Lower East Side community, and we're looking especially at electrification and emissions from buildings, but also the other related impacts. So if you look here, we talk about urban heat. So people talk about the urban heat island effect and how it causes, poor air quality, but also we look at it as how it increases energy use and the emissions associated with energy use from buildings.
Yes.
Right? Because we have to heat and cool the buildings, and it uses more power, right? And so these things all together with the extreme heat and with the extreme energy use and the poor air quality, it creates a perfect storm of problems, right? So we want to be very sane and sober about that and say that it isn't just one thing. Of course, we have to plant more trees. Of course, we have to maybe change the color of surfaces to reduce urban heating.
Right.
There was a project once called the White Roof Project.
Yes.
So when we increase albedo, the reflectivity, we can literally cool the neighborhood down, the so-called microclimate of the neighborhood, by as much as 20 degrees.
Yes.
So when we reduce 20 degrees, you make the neighborhood more comfortable, but also you need less cooling, for example. Right? And it doesn't stop there. But the reason it is that we have to look at it this way is because there's also a push to electrify buildings. So to decarbonize buildings and to go from fossil heating and hot water to heat pumps, for example.
Yes.
But if we go ahead and do that when the buildings are inefficient, right, then we have to be concerned about energy use reduction and energy use intensity. And so when you have a high percentage of energy waste because you're overheating and overcooling a building because it's wasting energy, you're also increasing emissions because New York City runs on gas.
Right.
And so when we go more electric, we're shifting the direct emissions from the buildings to the generation sector, right? And according to this, let's see, so nearly 70% of the emissions in New York come directly from buildings that burn fossil fuels, right? And this includes the multifamily buildings. Indirect emissions from electricity used in the residential and commercial buildings account for 31% of the greenhouse emissions nationwide. And in New York City, we rely mainly on gas, right? And so when we go ahead and increase our electricity use, we can increase it as much as 300%.
Wow.
Which is moving the emissions from the building to the power sector. Now, 300% increase means 300% in electrical loads, which is stress on the electrical grid, which is going to cause more failures.
Right.
Electric bills, so the energy burden also increases, and emissions increase.
Wow.
So there's an unintended consequence to going electric if you don't go efficient first.
Right.
And this is what we talk about here. So energy use reduction So this building, as an example, this is a prototype of a NYCHA building, New York City Housing Authority. So this one has a pre-retrofit site energy use intensity of 139 kilobTUs per square foot.
Wow.
After the retrofit, it can reduce that 78%.
Significant.
Right? So this impact reduces electric stress on the electric grid, it reduces emissions, and it reduces people's bills. So that's why we're taking this kind of an approach that takes it all into account, right? And then really the bottom line is, this is the burning question. What is the social cost of carbon? So most people don't know. What is the social cost of carbon? Social cost of carbon is the damages done to society, the natural environment, human health, and the infrastructure, in part due to changes caused by emissions from the burning of fossil fuels. And this is exhibited by the number of billion-dollar weather and climate-related disasters. So this is the map from 2024, and this shows you that there are 27 separate billion-dollar weather and climate disasters that impacted the United States. This means
1 year, in 2024.
2024 alone. This was the most in many years. This is from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, from NOAA. So what does this mean? That means people were displaced from their homes, businesses were ruined, lives were lost, and it only comes down to the price per ton of carbon is only $51 a ton. So we believe that that is insufficient. In fact, many economists also feel that this does not reflect the true cost. So we need to reevaluate the true cost effect that are related to carbon, and to find that, to use that as a way to invest in some of these solutions that we're talking about.
Well, I think your focus will have a very tremendous, meaningful impact. We are such a building dense city. So if we understand the interrelatedness and the consequences of having inefficient buildings and designs, you know, there's a lot at risk here, and there's a lot that we can preemptively do to minimize the climate hazards and risks that come from underknowing our climate data and facts. So you mentioned briefly about like internships and pipelines. How can someone get connected to these opportunities and learn more through your work?
I would say the first thing would be sign up for our newsletter. And we don't have our volunteer form, but if folks want to go to loisaida.org, L-O-I-S-A-I-D-A, loisaida.org, that's Lower East Side in Spanglish for the uninitiated, loisaida.org, and there's a volunteer form. So people can fill out the volunteer form, and then, you know, they can show up and volunteer.
Thank you so much for your time and your great work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.